We are living in times where there is an assault on sanity. Political correctness has run amok and logic has been left by the wayside. Do you constantly ask yourself, WTF is going on in this nation? Do you sometimes feel like a stranger in your own country? Well, fear not. You are not alone. This is the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show, coming to you from deep inside flyover country with your hosts, V. Wright and Jose Estevez.
Welcome, everybody. It's WTF, and I am V. Wright.
And I am Jose Estevez. Welcome to the show, folks, the final live show of the week. Of course, we come to you live 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unrehearsed, unscripted, unfiltered, and PG-13, but never PC. This is the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Radio Show.
Yes, it is. And if you guys would like to share our information, as you always do, and you guys are fabulous about that, and we are appreciated so much, you can share our website, the WTFradioshow.com, our host network, Patriot Network News at pnntalkradio.com, patriotsride.org, tunein.com, Spreaker.com, iTunes, or iHeartRadio, all of which are locations our show could be heard. In addition to that, if you, for some reason, miss a show, or if you want to rehear a show, or you want to forward it and let someone else listen to it, you can pick up our archived shows from Spreaker.com, YouTube, or iHeartRadio. Want to remind you guys that we're available on Facebook, WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show there on Facebook, on Twitter at the WTF Radio. And if you need to email us for any reason at all, you can reach us at contact us at the WTFradioshow.com. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you guys our phone lines are open during our live broadcast Monday through Thursday. If you would like to call in, please do so by dialing 313-462-0068. Again, that's 313-462-0068. We would love to hear from you guys. Senor.
We would like to hear from you, so call us. I don't know, I just saw this video about the, they say potty-mouthed kids. That's not quite the right word for it, folks, if you haven't seen it, trashing Trump and taunting him to deport them and that sort of thing. If you haven't seen the video yet, I understand it's been on Fox all day. Check it out. We can't air it until we get a copy that's suitable for air. That's how bad it is, folks. We always tell you we're PG-13 but never PC. This goes way across the line, and it's using kids to get this message across that they will not be deported. They're not going to leave. They have every right to be here. No, they don't. The 14th Amendment has been grossly perverted, allowing the anchor babies. It had nothing to do with anchor babies. But, folks, if you haven't seen this video, I implore you to check it out. Wow. It's got me bristling right now.
It is horrendous, and if we could bring you somewhat a semblance of an edited version, we would do so. Mm-hmm. But wasn't going to steal Fox's.
Right, it's foul. I mean, it is
you know
foul.
What's bad is that none of these parents, you would think, I would not want my child to go on public display screaming obscenities at anyone, much less a presidential candidate. I mean, I wouldn't even let my child go out in public and scream obscenities at the president. I'd take them home and wash their mouth out with soap.
Right. These people are scum. See, these people, this is child abuse outright, and it's what the ends justify the means. That's what liberalism, communism, socialism, all of this stuff, that's what it boils down to. The ends justify the means, and of course they're playing the victim card here in a way, but they're going, folks, it's very serious when you're using the kids like this, and what they're saying, I tell you what, they mean it. Go look at what La Raza is really for, the organization known as La Raza, and they want the repatriation of the entire southwest of the United States, Texas, all the way up through California, back to Mexico, folks. They think we've stolen that from them. I think they're already going to take California. I'm not sure about the other states. I think they'll get California. They're working on Texas and obviously on the other states as well. But I'm telling you what, folks, this is serious. Watch this video if you already have not. It's all over social media. Obviously, we've said Fox is airing it, probably on their website, I would imagine, if you can get over to their website or something. And, of course, we're no big fans of them, but at least they're airing it. I'll give them credit for that, because this is despicable, and this is what liberals are all about. And they're serious, folks. This is a fight for the heart of this country. This is a fight for the heart of this country. And what they want, folks, is nothing envisioned by the founding fathers. I will guarantee you that. Nothing whatsoever. That's my perspective. That's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Well, we've got so many issues going on in this country. It is not
Indeed.
even funny. You were not here on Tuesday. Suzanne and I were here. You were out with sick, and I'm glad that you're feeling better enough to join us tonight, because we've got a fabulous guest joining us later. And then last night, unfortunately, to all of you who tuned in to hear our show last night, we were not available. Welcome to the world of technology. Sometimes the power, it doesn't really matter when you're dealing with the airwaves. Sometimes the power goes out, you might have a glitch, a server may be down. Whatever the situation is, you can't be here as reliably as you would like to. But I think that's only happened 3 times in the last year.
I believe, yeah, I think we've got a great track record for what we do and what we are. I believe that's a great track record.
Yeah,
I just thought you didn't want to go on because I wasn't here, and you missed me a lot. Just let me think that, okay? But
yeah, you go ahead and think that. I was reading the news earlier today, and it seems that New Orleans is beginning to get some of their seated new community members. They were showing some pictures of the guys that they were going to be bringing in to New Orleans, and I found it funny that I could not identify a single female in the group. But then I went on to read a little further, and it turns out this refugee situation. According to the UK, each refugee costs them $36,000 per year apiece. Wow. According to the UN, each refugee should cost a country $18,000 a year. If you keep them in a country close to their home country, that number can be cut significantly, according to the UN. In the United States of America, the estimate is $796 per family of 4 for 5 years.
Wow.
And that does not include, wait a minute, that does not include the airfare that our government reimburses the UN for, and we know that's sort of like a $500 toilet seat.
Right.
It also does not include the entry funds that they get immediately. We've talked about those funds before, up in the thousands. It does not include the savings matching the State Department does with them. So if they come with money, I think it's up to $2,000 per individual. If they come with that, then the State Department matches those funds for a savings. But no, I was just absolutely astounded. We have so many issues going on in this country. It is absolutely astronomical. It borders on overwhelming. It really does. We've got that situation coming here. We've got all of the things that are going on in Europe. We're 2-3 years behind them, if that. Of course, our guest will be talking more about that when he gets here, and I'm really looking forward to having him, and I'll be telling you guys more about him in a little bit. I know a lot of you guys are tuning in specifically for him, and we appreciate that, but he'll be joining us shortly. This new thing with the transgenders in the schools, and it's not necessarily that they're transgender, it's that for today they identify as because they're at that awkward age where they're trying to figure life out to begin with. Well, we know that the Milk Chocolate Messiah penned another executive fiat order, action, whatever you want to call it, saying that these schools have to comply with treating them as if they were the sex that they want or think that they should be today, or face losing federal funding. Well, I got a problem with this because this is kind of a dual-edged sword. Number one, we've got this case where this young man, and that's what I'm going to call him, claims to identify as a female. And the government has now said that that's fine if he, the school had said, well, that's fine if he identifies as a female. We will give him his own changing station next to the girls' locker room, because he still has all of his male genitalia. The federal government says, nope, that's not good enough. If you don't allow him to change, you're isolating him, treating him different. That's discrimination. If you don't allow him to change in the changing room with the girls, then you lose federal funding. My thing with this is, it seems to me, with all the sexual harassment crap that they have pushed into the schools and into the workforce, that being forced to view someone of the opposite sex could be classified as sexual harassment.
Oh.
So, but as I was sitting there listening to all of this, I mean, I'm just saying that for the parents out there, your daughter is being sexually harassed by being forced. As a matter of fact, not only is she being sexually harassed, but she is, I'm not so sure that you couldn't sue the school for subjecting her to pornographic material.
Agree.
Because she, that's a male figure. And the school does not know whether or not your child has been exposed to a male figure or not. But I know that if him as a boy took a picture of his genitals and sent it to a girl, he could be charged on a sexually related charge. So that tells me that, yes, the foundation is there, the government has laid it there, and that's where I would take it. However, for those individual states, this goes back to what I say all the time. Individual states should be collecting their own federal tax dollars, holding them in coffer, and making the federal government petition them. You can't lose federal funding if the federal government doesn't have your dollars to leech back to you at their will to begin with.
Darn, I was just going to say that. Doesn't it seem so commonsensical? If the states would assert their rights and, cut the federal government off like the damn junkie that it is, the heroin addict, whatever addict you want to refer to it as, and just cut them off. There you go, right there. It seems pretty easy, doesn't it? But it's not, and the federal government knows that. They've got their tentacles in everything.
But it is.
Seem to be very happy with that.
But it is.
Having ceded over their power.
But it is. See, you want to make it as complicated as all these government officials want to make it. No, it is just that easy. You go in, you vote, you amend your constitution, you set up an account, it comes to you. You tell the federal government, let me know what you need. Next time, and you hold off on it. You're not getting a dime for 6 months. We're going to collect those funds for 6 months. You can justify your expense for our state. But this is what we've got. And since you're giving us our money anyway, we'll just keep that part.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's our money. We'll just keep that.
Right. Well,
no sense in sending it to you for you to turn around and send it back to me after it's touched 20,000 hands that have to be paid first.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think they're all in it together, state, local, state, federal, all of them, for the most part, are in it together. Michigan, and I believe we talked about this on Monday, and I don't think they had even passed it yet. I think it was that night, Monday night, that they went and passed it. Michigan in the spring had a big referendum because they say the roads are horrible, and believe me, the roads are horrible. They absolutely are. But of course, they don't have enough money for it. They were supposed to start this big lottery, and the lottery money was going to go to the schools and go to the roads, and everything's going to be beautiful. Well, the lottery has exceeded beyond their wildest imaginations, yet there's still no money. I mean, we already talked about Michigan schools, about 50% not competent in math or reading. So Detroit, over 90%. All right, so there was a referendum this spring where Michigan voters went 80% said you will not raise taxes, because they were going to raise taxes on gas and a couple other things to get this money to fix the roads. They couldn't figure out any way else to do it. 80% of the people that turned out, and it was a pretty big turnout for a spring vote, 80% of the people said, no, you will not raise taxes. In Michigan, we have a Republican-controlled House and Senate. Guess what happened Monday night, V? Yeah, you already know, and probably some of the others have heard. They raised taxes, folks. They raised taxes on gas. They raised taxes on the registrations for our vehicles. But they were going to do it 40%, and they only did it 20%. So they're helping the burdened taxpayers. I don't care. 1%. You raised it 20% on registration, which is bullcrap anyway, because every year in Michigan, and I know not a lot of states do this, every year you pay another tax on your vehicle for how much it was valued at when it was new. So I've got a 1985 Chevy sitting in the driveway. I've got to pay a tax on that 1985 30-year-old Chevy every year to the state of Michigan. What bullcrap is that? So Monday night, and they called it fiscally responsible. I'm not kidding you, folks. They said this was a fiscally responsible. They raised the gas tax to I think it's one of the highest now in the United States out of the 57 states, and they also raised our registration after 80% of people that turned out in the spring told them, do not do it at all. And once again, they're all in it together, local, state, and federal. All of them are no good. They're all in on it, and they're all in on the take. I'd like to find out where all this money goes to, because I guarantee you, folks, in 5-10 years, you still will see some of the worst roads in the 57 states in the state of Michigan, and they'll have some damned excuse.
Well, unfortunately, according to an article I read the other day, Michigan is not alone. 36 states. The federal government and 36 states are looking at hiking the gas tax.
Right, because cars are more efficient now. It's just a scam, because the government helps the more efficient car companies, to turn out all these incentives for green and stuff like that. And then it screws them with the gas taxes, so then they got to raise your gas tax. Tell you what, folks, we're getting it from both ends. Both ends. All the time. And it's absolutely despicable when a leader of I think it was the House, a Republican leader of the House in Michigan, can say with a straight face that we did the fiscally responsible thing when they raised the gas tax and the registration 20%. But it was better that we saved you 50% because it was going to be 40%. See, that's how they think and make this look. And some people might buy it. I don't think most people do. There's actually a lot of upset people here in Michigan. But how many are upset enough to do something about it? I don't know. There's talks of recalls, even though there's a lot of them are term limited out next year, and they're up for vote next year. But a lot of people are saying we need to make a stand and still recall them, even though they only have maybe a year left.
I absolutely would. I absolutely would. Mm-hmm. I absolutely would jump on board with that. And you guys are foolish if you're not out there pushing that agenda and supporting it. I mean, pull them out of office. Pull them out of office. This is absolute. The people voted. When it goes to the people made their voice. You represent the people. Yes. You do not represent yourself. I don't give a damn what your budget is. If that means you've got to cut something, then cut something. Then I saw today too that your state has the esteemed privilege of being the first Muslim legally controlled city.
Can you believe that? In Hamtramck,
and it wasn't Dearbornistan.
Over by Detroit. 4 out of 6 are Muslims in the city council now. But they said there's going to be equality for everybody. Christians, doesn't matter. Just because the Muslims are in control, it's going to be great for everybody. Yeah, because we see that everywhere, that the Muslims are in control, don't we? But of course, we're supposed to expect that it's different here. But we've talked about that in the past, folks. What they say, what they do are two different things.
Well, who's going to sue them?
I mean, yeah, nobody.
Who's going to sue them?
I mean, I don't want to lose my head over it. Just kidding.
The state's not. You guys aren't. Y'all are going to just because nobody's done anything in Dearborn, and they've been running that show over there for a decade.
You better believe it. But if you go against them, they paint you as a racist, which of course
who cares? When are you guys going to embrace the fact that you can, number one, go out and say, you call me whatever the hell you want to call me, but Islam is not a race. Now, you might want to call me a bigot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And Islam isn't even a religion, so I don't believe they have any staying under the freedom of religion.
And if you want, and wait a minute, and if you want to go that route, we have a separation of church and state. So you choose your team, buddy.
Oh yeah, they always throw that out, don't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
choose your team. Do you want to be in charge of the city, or do you want to study your religion? Because the rest of us can't have it both ways. But see, that requires somebody with a set to stand up, and that requires more than one person with a set to stand up. And unfortunately, in this nation, I'm seeing that in very short supply.
I agree.
I was looking at a meme today that said, "Ever wonder why terrorists aren't kidnapping Russians?" Have you seen that one?
No, I have not.
I actually found it quite entertaining to a degree. In 1986, Muslim extremists kidnapped 4 Soviet diplomats in Beirut. Kidnappers demanded Moscow's support for a pro-Syrian fighters in Lebanon. As expected, Moscow ignored these demands. Kidnappers, in order to show that they were not kidding, killed one of those hostages. Moscow replied. The KGB kidnapped a family member of one of the Hezbollah leaders. He was castrated and killed, and the leader himself was sent a package containing body parts and a note saying that his other family members would receive the same fate. The 3 remaining diplomats were immediately released. I'm repeating this to you because that is all these people know. They know the courage, your conviction, your courage to stand up and confront them. I learned that valuable lesson when I was in your state.
Right.
Probably more. Well, I didn't learn it there, but it was highly reaffirmed in me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Is that these people are cowards. They are cowards. They only seem to work in groups or on unsuspecting people. They will not go out and have a fair confrontation.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's up with your police force. I'm going to tell you right now, your police force over there in Dearborn, in these cities, should be fired.
Right.
Fired. All of them. We have laws. This is the United States of America. I don't care where the hell these people came from. If they're not going to assimilate, they can sit their happy asses in jail.
Yeah. Agreed. They let them get away with whatever. They do.
It is absolutely astronomical to me that we have these issues. It blows my mind that we are allowing our government to do this. And we are allowing it. Don't misunderstand that, folks. When I say that, do I mean go to Washington, D.C. and drag folks out and start hanging them in the streets? Well, that's a dream, okay? You know, I do privately fantasize about that. I'm not even going to lie.
It's been done in the past. You know.
Huh?
It's been done in the past.
Absolutely it has. However,
done in the past.
As effective is to go to your state capital and do the same thing. Get with the program, cede, or stand up for your 10th Amendment. reclaim your power and control. Do your job. Stop being lazy or cede.
Right. Interestingly enough, while we're talking about this, and specifically the Muslim City Council now over on the other side of Michigan, a post just popped up in social media, and I quick look through just to see if there's any new information or something maybe I hadn't caught, because the last 48 hours I haven't paid much attention to anything. Here is a comment from someone, don't have any idea who it is, but boy, this captures it in one sentence. How many of these elected Muslims on the city council are women or gay? There you have it right there. That ought to tell you something. That ought to tell you something. Right there.
It is ridiculous the things that we're allowing to occur in this country. The fact that anyone would air, the moral decline of this country is very well laid out in the advertisement that you were speaking about when we first took air tonight, and that was the one of the children. I will say this. Given that advertisement, it was not that long ago that absolutely cable network or otherwise would have never aired it, period.
Right. V, I think what you just said, I want to give, we've come down on Fox News a lot and over and over, and I think with good excuse, with good reason. But I'm telling you what, even if they're showing it, and of course they're showing the edited version because, folks, it's got a lot of foul language in there. Thank God for Fox. I don't know if any of the other ones are doing it, but if Fox is showing it, that is a huge star from me here on the WTF radio show. Not that that means anything, but seriously, folks, I really appreciate that they're doing that. And a lot of people said it's been showing all day. So good for them. Like I said, I doubt any of the other stations, any of the networks are playing it. But if Fox is doing it, then I give them some serious credit for that, to get that out, because a lot of people do watch Fox News, let's face it. So
it is absolutely reprehensible. The things that are being said, if your children were to be saying such things or doing such things, there would be some serious punishment there, some absolute dire consequence. I know that should my children ever speak to me, my children are grown, and if they spoke to me like that, we would have big issues, absolute big issues. I just can't believe that anyone would be okay with their child speaking in that fashion. Absolutely not okay at all. Some of the filth and with the emphasis that they have, they've got it grammatically there. They are most definitely acknowledging they know exactly what that word means, or what those words mean. But it is, in my opinion, a recipe for some severe punishment, and the fact that the liberal left is not coming forward and calling this out, because even liberals that I know, that I don't necessarily associate with, they do not allow their children to speak like that.
Right. It's child abuse as far as I'm concerned, and they think it's cool. See, that's the whole thing. It's cool that they're doing this. I hope that it wakes up some people, even on our side, that don't really see what's going on. I really hope it does. So we'll see.
Well, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we told you that we were going to be bringing a guest with you tonight, to you tonight, a wonderful man. He is an Iraqi exile. He is fluent in Arabic. He is a scholar and an author, Lifting the Veil, the trilogy, and that is available on Amazon.com. He is bold and passionate and knowledgeable, and he is in the perfect location because he has no tolerance for the PC agenda, and we are so thankful for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Mr. IQ al-Rassooli.
Thank you, Veronica, for having me on your show.
Oh, it is our pleasure. Mr. Mr. Rassooli, this is my co-host, Jose, and we are very much looking forward to having you this evening, Senor.
Yes, welcome to the show, sir, and I'm sure you're going to enlighten us as well as all of our listeners about Islam and many other things. And feel free to speak freely on the show, and hopefully we'll learn a lot from it, myself included.
God willing, we'll do so. I would like to address our listeners that even though the world watches with horror and disgust all manner of death and destruction perpetrated against non-Muslims, as well as other Muslims of different sects, by Muslims, in 100% of all acts of terror against so-called infidels, it is still very, very difficult for decent Europeans and Americans to grasp the enormity of the threat posed by Muslims to all human beings who are not followers of Muhammad, called kuffar or infidels, because they cannot believe that a religion called Islam can be so depraved. This is compounded because most of the leaders in Europe and America, in academia, clergy, media, and politics, have been deceiving and or misleading their peoples, whether by omission or by commission, that Islam means peace, and that Allah, the God of the Muslims, is God. Let me astound our listeners with the following facts that prove Islam is depraved, based entirely upon the very Arabic and Islamic scripture that are available to read to every human being interested in knowledge at the click of a mouse. For example, Islam does not mean peace, because the root verb in Arabic is aslama, which means submission and only submission. Furthermore, Allah is not God, and most certainly not the same as the God of Jesus, Moses, and Abraham. Since Allah is not the same as the God of the Bible, then Muhammad's claims that Allah revealed the Quran to him are lies, utterly discrediting Muhammad as a prophet and the alleged divine origin of his Quran. Hence, Islam is not a religion, and most definitely not an Abrahamic religion, but is a cult belief system, the cult of Muhammad, unworthy of any attributes of calling it a religion. This is why, 1400 years ago, Muhammad declared total war against all human beings who do not follow his cult belief system, until all humanity is either subjected to Sharia or is exterminated. Ladies and gentlemen, contrary to what the media tell you and what the Muslims tell you, jihad is not a spiritual struggle to commune with God, but eternal warfare by Muslims against all unbelievers, kuffar, until all humanity is ruled under Sharia or is slaughtered. The tragedy is that the followers of Muhammad are the first and foremost victims of this belief system. And I dare any listener to challenge me and prove anything I have just revealed as either wrong or untrue. Back to you, sir.
Senor?
Wow. That is a powerful introduction. I don't know what to say. What do we jump into here? Where do you typically start when you're telling people after you've told them all that? But thank you for saying that it's about submission. We've said over and over that Islam is about submission, and also I have said that Islam is a war plan, and that's what they intend to do: take the infidels and subjugate them, or kill them in many cases if they won't be subjugated.
Correct. By the way, have you heard about the stabbing yesterday
Yes.
by an 18 years old smiling Muslim student of two students and two others at the University of California in Merced yesterday? Have you heard that?
Yes, sir.
We
I
have.
just heard that today.
And he's
Okay.
been
He was
identified
shot
as
by the police.
Faisal Mohammed, correct?
Yes, thank you very much. He was smiling because he was following his God, Allah, his commandment, to slaughter unbelievers, kuffar. Hence, eagerly looking forward to gain entrance to Muhammad's whorehouse version of Islamic paradise with the 72 virgins. He is emulating his brothers in Islam who are slaughtering Jews in Israel for exactly the same manner. You see, what Americans don't seem to understand, and even Europeans don't seem to understand, Islam is the enemy of every human being on the planet who is not a Muslim. Not only against Jews, not only against Israel, not only against America, not only against Christians. They are against Buddhists, they are against Hindus, they get anybody who is not a Muslim. You've got to sink in. This idea has got to sink in into the mind of Americans and Europeans before it's too late. Look, it is dangerous. I know I've been dealing with this subject for 30 years. And millions of people have been listening to me, hearing me, or reading about me. But not many people are convinced, even though I quote to them in chapter and verse of the Quran. Look, as far as I know, not a single scholar of Islam has ever pointed out a glaring fact that has escaped the attention of all of them for the last 1400 years. Let me elaborate. All that humanity has had, or will ever have, are the self-serving assertions made by a single man called Muhammad bin Abdullah, that he received the verses of the Quran from the angel Gabriel. In all the Islamic records, there is not a single report of any eyewitness that either saw Gabriel and Muhammad together, or even heard Muhammad and Gabriel talk to each other. Not from his most intimate companions, nor from any of his numerous wives. Such a declaration in any decent court of law would be thrown out of the building because it's unsubstantiated, it's unwitnessed. Does that make sense to you? We only have the words of a man. It's like me claiming I am the son of God. Well, I can claim whatever I want. But he was claiming it in Arabia in the year 610 AD. Arabia at that time was the most illiterate, the most backward, the most superstitious bunch of people on the planet. So he convinced his followers. But how did he convince them? He said to them, look guys, if you follow every instruction I give you, which are revealed to me by our God Allah, who is the same as the God of the Bible, of course, I promise you that when you die fighting on my behalf, you will end up with the 72 virgins in paradise. But if you don't die and you win in battle, you have all the women, all the men, all the slaves that you want. It's a win-win situation, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't matter that you and I know there are no 72 virgins, that what he promised them is a lie. But the tragedy is that these people who believe, and most Muslims believe, exactly what the Quran is telling them. That's the tragedy. So the joke is not on them, the joke is on us for not believing what they are telling us. And what do they tell us? We shall raise the Islamic flag on the White House, the Islamic flag on the Vatican, the Islamic flag on Champs-Élysées in France. That's what they are telling us. And we don't believe them. This is the tragedy.
It's true.
Well, you're absolutely correct, and that is a point of contention the Senor and I have had since day one with some of our listening audience. We come across this conflict on pretty much a regular basis. We had a young lady, an Iranian young woman who I have become very good friends with, join us last week. She escaped Iran. She came to the United States, and she has converted away from Islam. My understanding, too, is that you converted away from Islam. Am I right?
No, I was never a Muslim.
You were never a Muslim.
Secular.
Oh, okay.
They were very well educated. No, I'm just telling you the facts. I don't want to dismiss it or mislead you.
Right.
The important thing is, when I was free to read the Quran and compare it with the Bible in Europe, that was what opened my mind. everything in the Quran is the exact opposite of everything there is in the Bible. Everything. People who listen to me cannot be convinced. But let me recite to you verses from the Quran. I will recite to you these verses in chapter and verse so that I can Google them instantly. For example, chapter 5, Al-Ma'idah, verse 51. It says, O ye who believe, Muslims, take not the Jews and the Christians for your friends and protectors. They are but friends and protectors to each other. And he amongst you Muslims that turns to them for friendship is of them. Ladies and gentlemen, the implications of the last sentence is of immense importance, and I shall repeat it. And he amongst you Muslims that turns to them for friendship, that's to the Jews and Christians, is of the means that any followers of Muhammad who befriend or are under the rule of Christians or Jews or any other non-Muslim group will be considered apostate to Islam, enemies of Islam, outsiders to Islam who must be butchered. In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, no Muslim in the USA can ever be loyal to the American Constitution because American Constitution is man-made, not from Allah Sharia. Nor can any Muslim in the USA be a loyal citizen because non-Muslim Americans are called kuffar, unbelievers, kafirun, to be either subjugated or exterminated. Well, I mean, what else can I tell you? This is from the Quran, and it is forbidding them from ever being friends and or under the rule of Christians and Jews. And in fact, or Hindus or Buddhists. Another verse, and this is really devastating one. Al-Tawbah chapter 9 verse 29. The Quran says, fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden, which has been forbidden by Allah and His Apostle Muhammad, nor acknowledge the religion of truth. Of course, the religion of truth is Islam. Even if they are of the people of the book. The people of the book are Christians and Jews. Until they pay the jizya. I'm sure you heard what jizya is.
Right.
Well, I'll repeat it here. Jizya is an onerous tax on anybody who's not being a Muslim. And the Jews and the Christians have to pay the jizya, the Quran says, with willing submission and feel themselves humiliated. And for 1400 years, they used to hit the Christians and the Jews who submit the jizya on the head and make them grovel for 1400 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I challenge any of our listeners. I challenge any of our listeners, especially Muslims, to show us all a single operative verse in Muhammad's Quran that demonstrates any compassion and mercy to all infidels, unbelievers, kuffar. Currently, unbelievers represent 80% of humanity. All Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, atheists, agnostics, etc. That is any human being who is not a Muslim. So I dare anyone to find only one verse, and there are over 6,200 verses in Muhammad's Quran. The shocking reality in the 21st century is this. The most persecuted people on the planet Earth in the 21st century are Christians by Muslims. Back to you.
Absolutely. And that's what we continue to tell our audience base, IQ, is that there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim. If they believe the Quran, they're going to practice taqiyya. They're going to tell you that they can be friends. They can tell you, oh, well, we're westernized Islamist. No, you're not. If you follow the Quran, if you believe in the Quran, if you go to a mosque, when your imam says go forth and wage jihad, I don't care how moderate or integrated you are in your society, you're going to go forth and wage jihad. Otherwise, you suffer the consequences and punishment of your own people. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. You know why? In chapter 33, Al-Ahzab, verse 36, the Quran tells the followers of Muhammad, it is not fitting for a believer, that's a Muslim, man or woman. When a matter has been decided by Allah and His Messenger, Muhammad, to have any option about their decision. Every single mosque, ladies and gentlemen, incites the followers of Muhammad in every Friday in 80 languages in 180 countries, not only to deceive, but to destroy the very people they live amongst. Don't take my word for it. Just double check it. Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 85. It says, if anyone desires a religion other than Islam, submission to Allah, never will it be accepted of him. Al-Tawbah 9.33. It is Allah who has sent His Apostle Muhammad with guidance and the religion of truth, Islam, to proclaim it over all other religions. When I read these verses tens of years ago, I thought of having read earlier Hitler Mein Kampf. They're identical. The Quran and Muhammad's Quran and Hitler's Mein Kampf are identical. By the way, Mein Kampf means my struggle.
Right.
And jihad also means my struggle.
My struggle.
Did you know that?
Wow. No,
Honestly.
I did not know that, but I did know that Mein Kampf did, but I did not know that.
Struggle.
Wow.
And in chapter 42, my chapter in my book, by the way, you don't have to buy my books. Everything I'm telling you is free of charges on the internet. All you have to do is Google my name, al-rassooli, A-L-R-A-S-S-O-O-L-I. Everything is free of charge. In chapter 42, I compare verse by verse from Muhammad's Quran with verse by verse from Hitler's Mein Kampf, and they are identical.
Wow.
I did not know that. I did not know
Yeah, but it is honestly. I mean, look, I say honestly. I shouldn't even say the word honestly, because people can only believe when they go and find out for themselves.
Right.
That's true.
The tragedy is people are so much involved in watching television, Big Brother. They're not interested in knowledge. But let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. You were bequeathed by your fathers and grandfathers the greatest nation the earth has ever known, America. You are bequeathing to your children and grandchildren a disaster by not doing anything. Don't write to your congressman. Don't email your congressman. They're not going to look at them. You have to demonstrate. You have to go out in the street in your hundreds of thousands and millions. I'll give you an example. Almost 2 years ago, 21 million people in a third-rate nation called Egypt, out of 80 million, demonstrated their disgust about the Muslim Brotherhood who were ruling them. They forced the military to take over.
Yes.
21 million out of 80. In America, I haven't had a single occasion, or haven't learned of a single occasion, of even 100,000 Americans combining together, telling the government, what you're doing is wrong.
You're absolutely correct.
Amen. Thanks for saying that. You're right.
We've discussed that much on the show, how it is it is abhorrent that we cannot unify and get people to actually be proactive. We have been socially engineered through our entertainment capabilities to the point that people are lazy and passive, and I'm not so certain that it will not require a situation of pure oppression and enslavement for them to get it. The horror and the hardship on a more rampant basis. But then, I fear that most here are cowards and would cower.
But Veronica, let me explain something else, because people don't read history. And those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat history.
Absolutely.
When Hitler took to power in 1933, the first thing he did through his Gestapo, he disarmed the German people.
That's
literally disarmed them.
Yes.
This is what Obama is trying to do to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
If If I were an American, I would never, ever give my gun away. I believe totally in the Second Amendment. Why? Because the people who authored it, your forefathers, they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that if the American people don't have guns, the American government will be tyrannical. So you have guns so that your American government will never be tyrannical. But you are not even doing anything about it. Both houses, the Congress, and the Democrats and Republicans,
right,
they are not doing their job. They are traitors to America.
They are traitors.
I'm an outsider. Look, I'm an outsider. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat.
Okay.
I'm looking from the outside in. What do I see? Total collapse in morality among the leaders. They should have impeached Obama 5 times.
At least.
5 times they should have impeached him. They should have impeached Hillary Clinton at least 3 times. Benghazi was one of them.
Yeah, I agreed.
They have lied. Sorry, back to you.
No, we agree wholeheartedly with you. You're not saying a thing that we disagree with, but we can't. You had predicted that Europe would be overrun by Muslims by March of 2016, and this is not a new revelation. You did this a while back. How long till America's overrun with the new importation of the vetted Syrian refugees?
Right.
First of all, they're not Syrian. Ladies and gentlemen in America, Syria has about 28 million people, 10% of whom are Christian. So it's about 2.8 million. 98% of the people coming to America are Muslims, and they are not from Syria. They are from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from Ethiopia, from Somalia, from North Africa. They are not Christians. They are flooding Europe. Why did I say by the 31st of March 2016? I gave an exact time,
yes,
which is only 5 months. Everybody would say 5 to 20 years or 10 years. Forget it. Why? Over 200,000 people have already arrived. Illegal. Tens of thousands of them now are not registering. They're just disappearing into Europe. They're not registering. They bring with them diseases that the Europeans are not accustomed to from Asia and Africa. They are not going to assimilate. They are not going to integrate. Muslims cannot assimilate. They cannot integrate. I have just proven to you all this in the 5 verses only. I beg Americans to do themselves a favor. There are 114 chapters in the Quran. You don't need to read 114 chapters. Read the first 9 chapters. Chapters 1 to chapters 9. You don't have to buy the Quran. Google it. It's free of charge. Google it. And after reading the first 9 chapters, if you can come to any conclusion other than mine, I will pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars if you prove me wrong. No, I'm not kidding with you. I have over $1.5 million. I've had over $1.5 million of challenges to every human being to prove me wrong for the last 10 years. I haven't lost a dime. Why did I challenge them financially? I did it not for propaganda purposes, not for boastful purposes, but to prove the point that no human being on planet Earth and no intelligent life outside the solar system can debate with this subject and win. And this is why I'm willing to back it up with money.
Right.
You know, the first principle of jihad is commanded in a verse in the Quran. Chapter 9, verse 3, it's called the Tawbah. And the Quran says, verily, Allah has purchased the believers, the Muslims, their lives and their properties. And in return is paradise. They fight in Allah's cause, jihad, so they kill others or are killed. And this is exactly what I told you a few minutes ago. This is exactly what I told you. So it is impossible to have a moderate Muslim. No, there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim, an extremist Muslim, a radical Muslim, and a militant Muslim. They don't exist. Who said so? Of all people, the leader of Turkey, the Prime Minister of Turkey,
who is a Muslim.
A year ago, he met with the European Union to discuss matters. And he told them, what the hell are you talking about? What are you discussing? Moderate Muslim, this Muslim. Islam is Islam. So now we have the most perfect Muslim telling the European Union and the news media that Islam is Islam. But the European leaders and the news media in the West are telling the American people he doesn't know what he's talking about. Can you believe that?
Wow.
But that's exactly what's happening.
I'm going to ask.
Exactly what's happening.
I'm going to ask you, because you see what is going on in Germany. You're very familiar with what is occurring. What the truth is with Islam. Now, you've got Americans who have converted to Islam. I don't think that they are very well aware of what they're converting to. We've got a mass number of our black populace that have no understanding that true Arabic Islam has no use for the black populace. They see them as a subhuman slave type person. As I do believe that the Quran even says that if they are black of face, that they're going to hell. But we have this situation here, and we are doing exactly what the rest of the world is doing as far as the United Kingdom, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, France, all of these other countries. We're importing these people in. We know that we are on the bullet train of importing jihadists. We are not importing poor little Mexican children. We are importing jihadists. How long before this goes bad?
Two things you raised which are extremely important about the black people. One of them about jihadists. Most black people who have converted to Islam have absolutely no idea what the hell it is all about. They really have no idea. Let me explain to you. In the Arabic language, a black man is called Abd. A-B-D. Abd means slave.
Okay.
Correct.
So in the Arabic language, even in modern times, they call black people al-abid, which is plural for slaves. Exactly what you said. They look at them as inferior. Now, ask Louis Farrakhan of the Nation of Islam, the one who hates Christians, who hates America, who hates Jews. Ask him, how did his grandfather or ancestors get to Europe, to America? Who brought them to America? Then he wouldn't know. And if he knows, he should commit suicide. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
No white people went into the heart of Africa to enslave the black man. The dirty work was done by Muslims, especially Arabs, or blacks who converted to Islam. These things I'm telling you are facts. I deal only with facts. I deal with reality. I deal with knowledge. I don't have to pervert anything. For every single slave that landed to America alive, or the Americas, by the way, not only the United States, the whole of the Western world, 14 million of them, 140 million black people were slaughtered by the Arabs and the black Muslims. Are you with me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
140 million, so that 14 million would be sold. And only 5% of them landed in America, in what we call the United States of America. Most of the others in the Caribbean and South America. So the people who are converting to Islam among the blacks are stupid. Utterly stupid.
True.
Because it wasn't the white man who brought them out of Africa. The white man bought them. But the ones who shackled them, the ones who raped their women, the ones who murdered them, who slaughtered them, who drowned them, were Arabs and black Muslims. If you don't believe me, double check it.
Right. Look it up.
Exactly.
I always tell
I
people.
agree.
No, I always tell people, double check me, triple check me. Please, if you find fault, email me. Because I love knowledge. And if I make a mistake, I like somebody to correct me. I have no problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in jihad, some of the items that no news media will ever tell you, of course no Muslim will tell you. In Sahih al-Bukhari, in Islam, there are 6 books which are mandatory reading if you want to know anything about Islam. They're called hadith. And among the 6 books is Bukhari. Bukhari Sahih is one of the greatest of all of the authors of the hadith. Sahih al-Bukhari 4.50, narrated by Anas bin Malik, says, Muhammad said, a single endeavor of fighting in Allah's cause, qital fi sabilillah, which is jihad, is better than the world and whatever is in it. I'm not saying that. In another hadith from another book, another superb book, it's called Sahih Muslim Hadith, 4631 and 4626 by Abu Hurairah. It says, I heard Muhammad say, I love that I should be killed in Allah's cause, jihad. Then I should be brought back, resurrected to life, to be killed again, to be resurrected again, to be killed again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since these are mandated in Muhammad's Quran and Sunnah, how is it conceivable that you can think of a Muslim being moderate? I want to know. I want to know. I mean, how is it conceivable? Mm-hmm. And yet, you have the leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, telling his flock less than a year ago that he couldn't find any aggressive verses in the Quran. I found that repulsive. Mm-hmm. I found that dangerous. I found that a great lie. Because as I said, all you have to read are the first 9 chapters of the Quran. And you'll find all the hate mongering you can possibly imagine.
And Mr. al-Rassooli,
in a sentence. Sorry, go on.
No, why is that? Let's just stay right with that. Why did Pope Francis say that? Why do you think? Obviously, it's your opinion. Why do you think he said that? Now, he's a man that has the ears of Catholics around the entire world, and others as well, not simply Catholics. Why did he say that?
I have no idea. I wish I knew. See, I don't want to insult the religion of somebody else. I don't want to insult the leader of somebody else. But I cannot fathom it.
Right.
He says, embrace Muslims. Well, let me tell you why I was angry. I'll tell you why I was angry.
Okay, go ahead.
Because under his watch, under Pope Francis' watch, we in Iraq, in my country, in the year 2003, we had 1.3 million Christians. These were not ordinary Christians. These were the oldest Christian communities on the planet. Today, as I speak to you, there are less than 200,000.
Oh, wow.
And the Pope said nothing about the extermination of the Christians in my country. The Pope said nothing about the extermination of Christians in every Muslim country. Nothing. He said, embrace them. How can you embrace a person or an enemy who wants you dead? I want to know. I don't know. I can't figure it out. He must have known about, again, the Prime Minister of Turkey, Recep Erdogan. Only a year ago, he recited a poem to his people. What did the poem say? He said, the mosques are our barracks, the domes our helmets, the minarets our bayonets, and the faithful our soldiers. Oh. If this is not an act of war, or this is not a declaration of war, I don't know what is. Right. Take Hamas mantra. Hamas and Boko Haram and ISIS and all of them. What do they say? Allah is our objective. Muhammad is our prophet. The Quran is our law. Jihad is our way. And dying in the way of Allah, al-mawtu fi sabilillah, is our highest aspiration. Dear listeners, the sole purpose of Islam upon earth is to subjugate or exterminate everybody who is not a Muslim.
Amen.
In one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
In one sentence. I don't have to add anything. I don't have to subtract anything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and yet, yeah, go on.
So how do we deal with this? We have a government system in this country that is blatantly out of control, acting in a treasonous manner, is not looking out for the best interest of this nation. We have someone who has been identified to us as a Shia Muslim by a former Shia Muslim in the White House. Someone who has said when the wind blows against, he's going to stand with the Islam, and the most beautiful sound he's ever heard is the Muslim call to prayer. Mm-hmm. We have a legislative body that is complicit in his movements, or they would have impeached him by now. They would have halted his unconstitutional and illegal actions. Yet I just found out today that many of our senators and House of Representatives have been traveling on little junctions to Turkey to be sold on the expansion of the Islamic Empire. So we know we have this traitorous situation here, and we know also, even in my city, I think we, over the last couple of weeks, have gotten 900 jihadis. I just told at the beginning of the show that the jihadis are beginning to arrive, the Syrian refugees, I call them jihadis, are beginning to arrive in New Orleans. Of course, not a female in the bunch, all male. This is coming to our streets. People do not understand what kind of barbaric fight is coming to their streets. When the show or I personally post pictures of what they're doing to Christians, well, it's not happening here is how people relate. Well, that's not happening here. Well, yes, it is. It happened at Fort Hood by Nidal Hassan. It happened in Arkansas. It happened today. It happened a couple months ago in Chattanooga. It is happening, and that's just what the news is willing to release. Then we have the situation with the belief that not all Muslims are radical, that there are moderate Muslims, and that comes from, I do believe, the example set in this nation of Christians claiming to be Christians but not living by Christian virtue. So yes, that person's a Christian, but they're really not a Christian, because I saw them at the bar and I saw them with their girlfriend while their wife was keeping the kids, and they think that the things correlate, but they don't. Am I correct?
You are absolutely correct. I get a lot of sometimes emails either from Jews or from Christians. But the Bible says this and the Bible says that, and the Bible had death and destruction. Yes, I agree with them. But you can't, and I have a challenge to this one. There is not a single human being on planet Earth who can find a single verse in the Bible, the Hebrew Bible or the New Testament, not one single verse, inciting the followers of Moses or the followers of Jesus to exterminate, annihilate, rape, and plunder others who are not either Christians or Jews. But I can show you 119 verses in the Quran doing exactly that. That's the difference. But you need to have knowledge. I mean, if I'm in a debate with an imam, it will take me 10 minutes to finish him off, I swear. 10 minutes, he's finished. You asked me a question on how to resolve the problem. In Europe, the Nazi party is not allowed. And these are democracies. Why are they not allowing Nazi party? It's a simple question. In a democracy, you should have even the Nazi party. But they don't allow it because the Nazi party is not only against Jews. It's against blacks. It's against people who are not Aryan. They call them Aryan, whatever. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they disallow them. Then why are we allowing Islam? I want to know. Every verse in the Quran incites the Muslim to destroy other people who are not Muslims. I would close every single mosque. I would close every single madrasa. I would not allow hijab or niqab. By the way, they tell you that hijab and niqab are in their religion. That's a lie. That's a lie. No one can find a single verse in the Quran mentioning the word hijab as a covering of a woman in any way, shape, or form. This is my subject.
Wow.
When I challenge these things, I know there's no way on earth anybody can find it. Cannot be done. So if it's not in their book, and since their book is not a religion, since Islam is not a religion, it's a cult belief system, they're not entitled to any of the privileges of a religion. None. It's a cult belief system. The cult of Muhammad, the cult of Hitler, the cult of Stalin, the cult of Pol Pot, the cult of Saddam Hussein in my country. Same. Shouldn't be allowed. And those people who don't like the law of the United States of America, leave.
Right.
You have the right to leave.
If you do not want to assimilate, then go.
They cannot assimilate. That's so important we understand that. No Muslim can assimilate. They can pretend they are part and parcel of the American dream. Those two boys who, in the Boston massacre,
the terrorist
boys. They were part and parcel of the American dream. They were wearing American clothing, sneakers, and they were educated in America. The American taxpayer paid for their education. What did they do? They taught Americans. Nidal, Fort Hood, what did he do? He murdered American in the armed forces, and he was an officer. You know, you have 6 top-level people in your government that Obama put them in power. You have them in Homeland Security, in the CIA, in FBI, and other places. And I remember very clearly when they were put in position, the New York Times said about them, they are believing Muslims. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if they are believing Muslims, they cannot ever be loyal to the American Constitution, nor can they be loyal to the American people. That's simple. It's not complicated.
And they cannot, and they've been put in places. What people don't understand is that they've been put in places that require them to enforce law. Now, think about that for a minute. They're wanting to push Sharia law. We've told you guys on the show about Ella Berry tweeting out that the American Constitution was ripe for the taking by Islam, and he did that while he was in his position at the Department of Homeland Security in the number 2 position. What better place to have someone who wants to make that transition from the American rule of law to Sharia law?
Well, you know, it's ironic. The preamble to the Constitution of the United States of America says, we the people. Not we Obama, not we Congress, not anybody. We the people. As I said earlier, don't email. Do not write. You need to demonstrate. The trouble is, for the people to demonstrate, they need people like you. Not on radio only. Let us assume you say to the people who are listening to your show, on Thursday, such and such a day, blah, 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 such and such an hour, we demonstrate at such and such a place. You know, you might get 200,000 people, but you need to lead them. You need to lead them. They're not going to do it. It's ironic. In Mein Kampf, Hitler said that 99% of human beings are stupid. They like to be led. That's exactly what he said. And he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. He wrote Mein Kampf in 1923. So for 10 years, everybody who knew about it, who read it, should have understood what he was getting at. But they dismissed him. They said, no, he's just a rant. He's ranting. He's crazy. He's stupid. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't crazy. He was focused. Obama is focused to destroy America. I said he would destroy America before he was elected. If you don't believe me, listen to my radio talk shows. I said he was a Muslim before he was elected. Why? 2 reasons. Very important ones. In an interview with George Stephanopoulos, he said to George, in the interview, it's on YouTube, that he was glad that his opponent, McCain, did not address his Muslim faith.
Absolutely.
George corrected him and said Christian, and he changed to Christian.
Yes.
My question to the listener is this. If he were a Christian, why would he say that McCain was addressing his Christian faith?
You don't make that kind of mistake about your faith.
Veronica, it was a slip of the tongue.
Absolutely.
It was a Freudian slip of the tongue.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another one, also on YouTube, and he was bombastic and, as usual, ebullient. He said, I have been, and he was thinking, I've been to 57 states and 2 more to go. Here we have a man who's supposed to be presidential material, a man who says he was an American, a man who was a senator. He didn't know that there are only 50 states in the United States of America. You elected him. Why did he say 57? Simple. There are 57 Muslim majority states in the United Nations.
Yes.
That is correct.
Another slip of the tongue. Another slip of the tongue. While I understood exactly what he was getting at, the news media covered it up.
Absolutely.
As if it was a joke.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Rassooli, that's why we started this show, is because the news media is covering everything up. And that's why we began this program, because it is vital that information gets out. And it's factual information, true information, not the propaganda that is now being touted by our government.
Right.
I appreciate it, but everybody asks me, how do you confront Islam? Why is America failing? I'll tell you why America is failing. You failed in Somalia. You failed in Lebanon. Not your government.
Right.
You failed in Yemen, in Libya, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan. They're failing in Syria. Why? Because you don't understand the Muslim mind. You don't understand the Muslim mind. You can't fight an enemy and try to win if you do not understand the enemy better than he knows himself.
That's true.
First rule of combat. First rule of war. Know thine enemy before more than he knows himself. You don't. Every Muslim will tell you, we love death more than we love life. They tell it to you. They say, hey, you infidels love life. Well, I said in my book, I said, every creation, every creature, every plant would rather be alive than dead.
That's correct.
Thank you. Only the Muslims want to be dead. Why? I'll tell you why. There is no joy in Islam. Muslims are not allowed to sing. They're not allowed to dance. They are not allowed to recite poetry. They are not allowed to show themselves properly. I mean, if they want to have miniskirts, especially the women. By the way, the women in Islam, 750 million of them are treated just one little step up the ladder of evolution than domestic animals. 750 million. 125 million of them have had genital mutilation.
Right.
So what are we discussing? An abhorrent belief system. This is why they want to die. Because Muhammad told them, when you die killing infidels, you get the 72 virgins in my whorehouse version of paradise. I'll tell you something
but it's
else.
true.
This is fact, by the way, you can also check
I love it.
When Israelis captured some suicide bombers before they committed suicide, and recently they captured somebody in Pakistan, and it's on YouTube. They had their genitals covered with a tin, a box of tin. They asked him why. He said, because when I get to heaven, I can function. I mean, listen to the intense stupidity. The person is going to be into a million pieces, but he's worried more about his genitals.
He thought he was going to protect them with aluminum
I know, we can
foil.
laugh at it, but it's not a laughing matter.
You're right.
These people believe They believe, and that's the dangerous part. You cannot discuss anything with a believer like that. You cannot argue with a Muslim. It's impossible.
Right.
My mission was never to change the mind of a Muslim, ever. I knew I could teach a donkey. Literally, I can teach a donkey, but I can't teach a Muslim. My mission is to educate 80% of humanity who are not Muslims, whom I call Ummat al-Kuffar. I created this word, it's on the internet. Ummat al-Kuffar means the nation of infidels. That's the way they look at us. We are 80% of humanity. Let me tell you something else. 20% of humanity who are Muslims, Ummat Muhammad, or the nation of Islam, is the least productive, least inventive, least creative in human history.
Yes.
But this is fact. And we, Ummat al-Kuffar, we who are not Muslims, 80%, we are the most productive, most inventive, most creative, and most powerful in human history. And our leaders are running like a chicken without a head.
You're absolutely correct.
Sorry, go on.
No, you're absolutely correct, and people don't understand it. They don't understand that we outnumber them. You know, we're going to, what I fear for our nation, the United States, what I fear for countries like Germany and the UK and Denmark and Sweden and all of the other countries who are being infiltrated to a mass degree, is that the citizens there will, the infidels there, the 80% will do exactly what the Jews did under Nazi Germany, and that is not realize that their numbers are, that they have the numbers, that they can resist, and yet they cower and fall under such barbaric behavior. I'm going to tell you, you said earlier, you were asking about them coming after our guns and things like that. I can promise you that they won't get mine. They will not get mine, and I am not alone.
Well, I hope you're not alone. By the way, why did I say the 31st of March? Because as we speak, and the news media in the West are not telling it to you, by the way, American media are not telling you. In Sweden, Swedish people have woken up, some of them. They have burned down warehouses and school buildings where the government was going to put in Muslim immigrants. They burned them down. In Dresden, in Germany, there have been demonstrations against the Islamic invasion. There are movements now in Europe. They're calling it, the news media are calling them Nazi. They are not Nazi people. These are not Nazis. These are nationalists. These people are worried about what's going to happen to their nations. They're not Nazis. But the news media deliberately call them Nazis to put other people off from joining them. But it won't continue. It won't stop people from joining. The right-wing parties now in Europe are gaining more power. It is a tragedy, but nonetheless it's a reality. This is why I gave up to the 31st of the, March. Because I honestly believe there will be civil disobedience, civil upheaval of immense proportions in Europe. Hungary, the leader of Hungary, Orban, the Prime Minister, he said, I'm closing my borders. I will only take Christian refugees, only Christian. A year ago, one could travel from one end of Europe to the other end of Europe without a passport. Today, everybody is erecting fences. Slovenia, Bulgaria, even Germany, all of them are erecting fences. Why? Because this invasion, this is not illegals only. These people are invading Europe.
Yes.
85% of them are between the age of 18 to 35, which is military age.
Right.
Not a single one of them is starving. Not one. Not one. You look at them. Not one of them is starving.
Well, they're not poorly dressed. They're not starving. They're coming over with electronics.
It is amazing. It really is amazing.
Yes.
You see them coming on these boats, rubber boats, and they are in excellent shape. Who paid the money to bring them? It cost $4,000 each. How many people in America today can save $4,000?
George Soros. George Soros is one of their funders. He has
ISIS is doing it. Good God. ISIS is earning $500 million in oil
exactly.
a year.
Well, that's
exactly.
True. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
With $500 million, I can buy 1 million people.
Right.
But George Soros has come out. George Soros has come out in the last few days and acknowledged that he is funding movements in the UK, in Germany, in Sweden, in Denmark, to pressure the political system there to take in the quote-unquote refugees, which here on this show we call them jihadi invaders.
It's not going to happen now. I'm not kidding with you. I've been negative about what's happening in Europe for quite a long time.
Right.
But this recent invasion, which is invasion, is waking up the European people. And as I said, your government in America is not going to do anything.
All right.
It is up to the American people to go up on the streets. This is exactly what's going to happen in Europe. There will be bloodshed. There will be massive disobedience. And this is why I said if by the 31st of March of next year these things don't happen, Europe is finished. And if Europe is finished, America will follow.
I agree.
But as much as my co-host said that, George Soros, and certainly many people are involved, and there's lots of money behind this for specific reasons, I just remember the report that we did, I think it was a couple months ago already, that Saudi Arabia, and they've since denied it, but there were supposedly reports that they plan to build 200 mosques in Germany alone because of all the people, supposedly immigrating into Germany and stuff like that. There's so many people behind this. And we had a report as well that Saudi Arabia has plenty of place for, I believe, a couple 100,000 at least, air-conditioned tents out in the desert. And, they're not accepting anybody unless they come over basically as slaves to work for the royal family.
Not 100,000. They can take 3 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
These tents can take up to 3 million people. But the Saudi government, nobody is asking in the news media in America or Europe, why aren't these Muslims going to Arabia? There are 57 Muslim states in the world, covering 12 million square miles. Why aren't they going to the Muslim world? They're coming to the land of the infidels. Why? Yes. Saudi Arabia, the Kuwait, and the Gulf states said, we will not take a single one of them. When asked why, they said they are terrorists. So the Arabs and the Muslims call these people terrorists, and the Europeans are embracing them. The government I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like Merkel in Germany, correct?
Who is the sane one and who is the stupid one?
We have
immense stupidity.
It is infuriating. It is absolutely infuriating because we've sat here for the last year on this show. Now, I haven't been doing this as long as you have. I have been screaming this for about a little over a decade now. But it gets to a point where you're angry all the time because people don't get it. You see it so clearly. Like a movie playing on a screen before you, and they're blind as a bat.
Because people are in denial. Look, how could a charlatan, a pathological liar like Obama, get elected twice? I tell the truth, people don't want to hear me. When you study the prophets of the Bible, they couldn't convince the public. They told the king, this is going to happen if you don't do this. And the king didn't listen. The people didn't listen.
Right.
And exactly what the prophet said happened. But these prophets were like you and me. They were ordinary people. They were not inspired by any God. They could read the writing on the wall. That's the only difference. I've been reading the writing on the walls since I compared the Quran with the Bible 30 years ago. You have started 10 years ago. But you can read the writing on the wall.
Right.
And you tell your followers and your people who are listening, look, guys, wake up. You have to act. You have to demonstrate. You have to do something. If you have a judge who is going to allow Sharia, remove him. If you have a curriculum which is not acceptable to the fathers and mothers of the students, change it. You have every right to do that. You elect these people. They are your servants. You're not the servants of the government. The trouble is, most Americans think they are the servants of the government. When somebody in Europe tells me, oh, the government will pay me, the government doesn't pay you. It's my tax money.
The government produces nothing.
Right.
Exactly. It's our tax money that propels the government financially. So it's tax money. My tax money is making you healthy. It's my tax money which is giving you financial aid and so on and so forth, not the government. You have to act. You have to demonstrate. But people will only demonstrate if you have a leader. This is why Donald Trump is doing well. This is why Ben Carson is doing well. They're telling the truth.
Right.
And the American people in general have had it with the establishment in the government. You have generation after generation of the same family ruling or following. People who have been in Congress for 30 years, 20 years, 25 years, you can't continue that.
Exactly.
You need new blood.
Exactly.
Carson is resonating. Donald Trump is resonating. It is not impossible that one of them will be president of the United States of America. Not impossible.
Well, we have a situation.
Who could have ever imagined a mulatto, Muslim traitor-in-chief to be in the White House? Who?
Well, we call him the milk chocolate messiah here, and he lives in the White Mosque.
Well, I would rather call him the mulatto Muslim traitor-in-chief. Which he is.
I like that.
And very accurate.
When he was in Congress, he was known as the Kenyan congressman.
Right.
That's the
you
fact.
You elected him twice.
No, I did not.
The first time, God forgives you. But to elect him a second time, God does not forgive you.
Well, you know, I did not, and many people did not vote for him, and you know, it is a bought and paid for political system. There is absolutely no doubt, especially after the last presidential election. He could have run, Mitt Romney dropped the ball, supposedly, is what everyone thinks. I don't think that he dropped the ball by accident. I think it was intentional, and that was set forth even further when we had 149 counties across the United States that had no less than 140% more people vote than were registered to do so, and he challenged none of them.
Well, again and again we come back to exactly the same position. If we the people don't act, you deserve what you get.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's time for, like you said earlier, for the American people to take a phrase from a 80s song, walk like Egyptians. It's time for us to do that in those numbers. They can do it. Why can't we? And actually, that was actually another slap to Obama, because Morsi was the one that we installed. That was our puppet regime that we installed over there.
Of course you did. But you know, the greatest mistake, people in America don't realize, ISIS was created by Obama and Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple. There was no reason whatsoever, logical or political, to remove Gaddafi. Who was Gaddafi? A despot. Really?
Yes.
Every leader in Islam is a despot.
Right.
Every single leader in Islam is a despot. Mm-hmm. Why pick on Gaddafi? After all, Gaddafi, after the fall of Saddam Hussein, he told the Americans, here are my keys. I have no weapons of mass destruction. Gaddafi was not a threat, not never. He was not a threat after the fall of Saddam Hussein to America. Right. But what happened? All of a sudden, Hillary Clinton wants to impose democracy. Really?
Mm-hmm.
How could any human being with two brain cells of logic think they can impose democracy on Islam? Islam is the nemesis of democracy.
Well, not
Islam
only
is the enemy of every single thing that a human being believes in as free.
Well, it wasn't only that. That wasn't the only thing that gave it away. They can't even claim that they wanted to instill democracy, because at that particular point in time when they were negotiating that little coup attempt there with Gaddafi in Egypt, we have to remember here in the United States, the Muslim Brotherhood was on a terrorist watch list, and that is who they were putting in power. So they knew very clearly what they were doing. This has all been a planned thing, and that's what we keep telling our listeners, is that you get some guy that spent most of his life in a Muslim nation. He was raised to believe in Islam, and he was guided in that path. He comes from nowhere with no experience and no background to run for a single term in the Illinois Senate or Congress. Did not even complete his term there, only completed 92 days. And decides he's running for president, and somehow or another, guys, do y'all understand how insane that sounds? You come from nowhere?
Of course it's insane. Everything about Obama is insane. But you elected him, not you personally, obviously. The American people elected him.
Yes.
But they elected him twice, for God's sake. Twice.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not so certain.
It's a mistake. But let me explain something to you. In the second term, before the second term, before he was elected, he said he would cut the American deficit by 50%. When he took over, the deficit was $9 trillion. Today, as I'm speaking to you, by the time he leaves, it will be $20 trillion.
It'll be more than that.
In the first 4 years, it became double. He said he was going to cut it by half. It doubled up.
Yeah.
He said 28 times or 29 times, he said, you can keep your this, you can keep your doctor, you can keep... 28 times he lied. And nobody impeached him.
Agree.
I mean, guys, listen. Don't complain. You have to do something about it.
Agree.
You elected people. Congress, both sides of the houses now are in the Republican hands. Why are they not doing anything with it?
Yes, nothing.
I honestly believed. Honestly, I believed when they take over, they become a majority, they will do something.
Right.
They haven't done anything.
Well, you're right. In fact, they just gave him, I believe it was last Friday evening, they gave him a blank check for the rest of the time that he's in office. He doesn't have to worry about shutdowns. He doesn't have to worry about asking for a debt limit increase. Nothing. He has a blank check. And the thing is, with the second time he was elected, in the first 4 years, if you couldn't figure out what he was doing, then you must be totally brain dead anyway, or seriously retarded. I'm not sure which it is. Maybe a combination of both. But for 4 to 5 million, and that might be a small estimate, supposed people that call themselves evangelicals to stay home because Romney, they didn't like Romney's religion. Well, then, yeah, you're right. We've got nobody but ourselves to blame. You're right.
Well,
because you could see in that first 4 years that he was going to destroy this country. He called it fundamental transformation. But if you couldn't figure out what it actually meant after the first 4 years, then you're right. We're getting what we deserve.
But something else very important. You want a perfect president. You want a perfect president, a person who does not approve of this abortion, who does not approve of homosexuality. You can't have a person that way. You will never have a leader who will please everybody. A leader who will please everybody is not a leader. It's impossible.
Agreed.
This is why you are failing. I'm not kidding with you, honestly. You are failing because you're failing this one because he doesn't approve of homosexuality or approves of homosexuality. The other one is abortion. You can't have a perfect person pleasing everybody. It is impossible. You have to look at the leader who will take care of the borders of the United States of America, who will take care of the economy, who will take care of the military, who will take care of the security of the United States of America, who believes in the American Constitution. These other things are they're not unimportant, but they are irrelevant to the security of the United States of America. Without your borders being protected, you're finished. like Europe.
Amen. A nation without borders is not a nation. IQ, I have two questions for you that are coming from our listeners. One is, can you ask your guest if he believes LCC has an old Muslim Brotherhood membership card with Obama's name on it?
It is not impossible. No, listen, it is not impossible. He supported the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes.
He loved Morsi.
Yes.
He caused the removal of Hosni Mubarak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When he went to give a talk in 2009 in Cairo, he forced Mubarak to allow the Muslim Brotherhood to be present. He told them it's a mistake. They didn't listen to him. Why? Because Obama doesn't listen to anybody. As Obama said, and it is on the record, that he can write script better than his writers, that he knows about more economy but than the economists, and so on and so forth. When you have a man who is so narcissistic, so self-gratifying, who, when he looks at himself in the mirror, he thinks maybe he is the Messiah, and believes it, he cannot be a good leader. He is a golf player who is pitting his wits against Putin, who is a chess player.
That's correct.
There is no chance in hell a golf player will win against a chess player.
Yes.
You're absolutely correct. The other question our listeners are asking, and I've got this one, being asked to ask you about the story of Isra. And I don't know what that means.
Which one?
The story
How do you spell
of
it?
ISRA.
The Isra. Yes, it's a good question. Isra is when Muhammad, theoretically, it's not in the Quran. By the way, for those Christians who don't know, the word Jerusalem, or the name Jerusalem, is never mentioned anywhere in the Quran or the Hadith, ever.
Okay.
So the claim by the Muslims to Jerusalem are false, especially by the Arabs. Now, Isra is a chapter in the Quran, chapter 17, which is, it says in Isra, it says that Muhammad was transported in one night from the Masjid al-Haram, which is Mecca, to al-Masjid al-Aqsa, to the furthest mosque. It doesn't tell you where the furthest mosque is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do the Arabs say it is Jerusalem? 140 years after the death of Muhammad, an author called Muhammad ibn Ishaq wrote a book, the biography of Muhammad, Sirat Rasulullah. By the way, everything I'm telling you, you can Google it.
Right.
There you go.
In Surat Rasulullah, for the first time ever, 140 years after the death of Muhammad, there was a story mentioned in the Hadith to say that Muhammad was transported physically from Mecca to Jerusalem. Are you with me so far?
Uh-huh.
I'm not being funny with you, and I ask you, are you with me? It's very important. I repeat, the Hadith says that Muhammad was transported physically. It wasn't just a theoretical thing, it was a physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
From Mecca to Bayt al-Maqdis, which is the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. And that was in the year 622 AD. It's very important you get the figures right and the dates. And according to the Hadith, or the stories about Muhammad, Muhammad prayed at the Temple of Solomon at the head of all the other prophets. Who were the other prophets? Moses, Jesus, Abraham, King Solomon, King David, and so on and so forth. So he prayed at the Temple of Solomon at the head of all of them. So presumably they were resurrected for that moment of time. Now let me tell you something which is astounding. In the year 622 AD, there was no Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, because 570 years earlier, the Romans completely destroyed it. So Muhammad lied, the Arabs lie, and the Muslims lie.
That's
Are you with me?
correct. Yep.
but that's a fact. I deal with facts. Double check it. In the year 135, Hadrian destroyed the temple completely. So in the year 622, it is impossible for Muhammad to have prayed at the temple of Solomon when that temple of Solomon didn't exist. So the story is lies. The Quran is complete lies, as I said before.
Right.
So everything about Islam is a lie. Everything, every single item you can pick up is a lie. That's why Islam is not a religion. That's why it can be outlawed. That's why it should be the laughing stock of every human being on the planet.
Well, in this country,
go on,
the problem that we have with this country, and this is where we kind of get into a legal conundrum here, is because our Supreme Court has not clearly defined what classifies as a religion or not a religion. They have gone so far as to say that atheism is a religion when we know that atheism is the void of religion, and they are incapable of discernment of religion versus political agenda.
Well, you have a corrupt system. You really have a very corrupt system.
Yes, we do.
You keep talking about great America, the American democracy.
It is horrendous.
America is a democracy, it's a republic.
No, we are there are those of us who are very well aware of the dire situation we are in politically.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You are in dire situation. Everything about your leadership is corrupt. As I said, if there is a judge who will allow anything with Sharia to be allowed, should be removed. If you have a leader in politics who supports Sharia or supports the importation of Muslims to invade America, should be removed. But you can't do that unless you actually go and demonstrate. Right. You can't do it with emails. Nobody will read your email. Nobody will read your letters. Nobody. But what's happening now in Europe is, in a way, encouraging. They are demonstrating. In Dresden, Pegida, which is a group of people who want to stop the Islamization of Europe, over 10,000 people demonstrated. And it's catching on somewhere else in Europe. As I said, there are indications that many Europeans are waking up and realizing that their leaders are destroying them, literally destroying them.
Well, hopefully Americans will take their lead. We are coming to the end of our time here, and there are a couple of things that I would like to say. Number one, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and would like to invite you to return with us sometimes.
Yes.
Anytime you want me, email me 2 days. Give me enough time.
That is
Thursday
fantastic.
is one of the best days for me.
That is fantastic. Guys, I would like to remind you that IQ al-rassooli is the author of Lifting the Veil. It is a trilogy series. You do not have to purchase it. However, if you want it in print, you can find it on Amazon.com. All 3 books. He also has it on his website that you can read it via the internet and downloads and all of that, or you can watch some of the most fantastic YouTube videos there are out there. You will find those at www.al-rassooli, RASSOOLI.com /blog /. And it is all there. You can find those links on our Facebook page at WTF The Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show or on our website. It has been posted to our website. I also would like to remind you guys that this show will be available for on-demand listening or download so that you can share it with your friends, family, associates, co-workers, whoever, wherever, your groups, law enforcement, we don't care. The information needs to go out there, and you can find that within 20 minutes of this show tonight on YouTube, on Spreaker.com, or on the iHeartRadio archives. We will be in all three locations. We encourage you greatly to share this information. And please, by all means, visit his website. Get informed. It is imperative. Inaz Ani Cyrus, the Iranian young woman who was with us last week, came to this country after the abuses of Islam and converted away from it. And she told you the very same things that Mr. Rassooli is telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And she was backing
Veronica,
it up.
it was a pleasure being with you. Really, I mean it. And if you have time, could you email me the link to this talk so I can add it to my blog?
I absolutely will. And I thank you so much for joining us. And I do look forward to you returning with us again.
God bless you both and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
What a fantastic guest. But we're in a dire situation. We have had our backs turned to our political system. They are no longer hearing us. So when I continue to tell everyone out there, you've got to get people together. You've got to make this change at your state level. Because going to Washington, D.C. with $1 million, although excellent idea, if we could show up 20, 30, 50 million deep in Washington, D.C., we might could get our point across. But since I have seen nothing but a consistent problem in getting everybody to a central location in those kind of numbers, how about we try getting 1 million to each state capital? Can we do that? Because if not, there is going to be blood in the streets. And you know who you're going to have to blame for it? Look in the damn mirror. Senor.
I agree. I don't have anything to add to that. He's a fabulous guest, and also just some breaking news here, kind of along the lines of what we were talking about, the immigration thing, and how he said that borders are absolutely critical to keeping the United States of America. Breaking news on the show here at the last minute. An immigrants' rights group proposed a Bill of Rights for illegal immigrants today, demanding that Americans recognize there are millions already in the country who deserve health care, in-state tuition rates for college, and a guarantee of citizenship in the long term. The list of demands runs 10 items long, the same as the U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights, and also calls for an end to all arrests and deportations for all law-abiding undocumented Americans. We'll have a lot more on that.
Petitions are not going to fix this. Emails are not going to fix this.
No.
Phone calls are not going to fix this. Get your ass to your state capital. Organize it today.
Right. Yeah, there you have it. And we'll have a lot more on that in the coming weeks, I'm sure. But
I'm going to tell you guys, I've been saying this since day one, that I will do whatever I feel like I have to do. And I am just barbaric enough to go there. Do I want to go there? No. But I would, and I will tell you the same thing that I told a very dear friend of mine. I would rather go there than to know that my children or my grandchildren or your children are being treated in the fashion that we have seen the representation of this barbaric cult in the Mideast, because they will do no different here. They will stomp on your baby's head. They will decapitate your child. They will rape your son, your daughter. Think it won't happen here? Wake up. We're at the end of our show. We're here Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live, unrehearsed, unscripted, unfiltered, PG-13, but never PC. You guys know where you can find us, and you know where to find the leaks. Senor.
Folks, join us next week. The entire week is going to be dedicated to the United States military veterans, not just on Wednesday like we did last year.